I'm Ed Glotzbach, Chairman of the Board of Spire, and on behalf of my fellow board members and all the employees of Spire, we welcome you to our annual shareholder meeting. Thanks for coming. Before we start, let me introduce our board of directors, as well as our executive officers and the representatives from our independent accountants, Deloitte & Touche, who are in the audience. My fellow directors are Mark Borer, retired CEO and board member, DCP Midstream Partners. Mark. Maria Fogarty, retired Senior Vice President, Internal Audit and Compliance at NextEra Energy. Rob Jones, retired co-head, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch Commodities. Brenda Newberry, founder and retired CEO, the Newberry Group. Suzanne Sitherwood, Chief Executive Officer and President, Spire. John Stupp, President, Stupp Brothers Incorporated. And Mary Ann Van Lokeren, retired Chairman and CEO of Cry Distributing. The executive officers we have with us this morning are Steve Lindsay, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Distribution Operations. That's a really long title, Steve. Steve Rashi, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. Mark Darrell, Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Chief Compliance Officer. Scott Carter, Senior Vice President, Commercial Operations. Scott's been with us a long time, a little over 3 weeks. So we're glad you joined us, Scott. Mike Geisehart, Senior Vice President, Strategic Planning and Corporate Development. And from Deloitte & Touche, our partner is here today, Adam Krasnoff. Let me also ask the other officers of the Spire entities who are here today to please stand and be recognized. And let me do one other thing. Anybody that came today that's a retiree of Laclede or Spire, why don't you stand and let us recognize you? There we go. I knew we had some. I was getting worried there for a minute. I will now begin the formal meeting. Ellen, do we have proof of notice?
Yes, I have the affidavit of Daniel Zini of Broadridge Financial Solutions that shows the notice of meeting has been distributed as required. At the opening of the meeting, we have received proxies for a majority of the shares issued and outstanding. If any shareholder has a proxy to turn in, please raise it and an usher will pick it up from you.
Since we have more than a majority of the outstanding common shares represented here either in person or by proxy, we have a quorum. Therefore, we may proceed with the business of the meeting. The Corporate Secretary has the minutes of last year's annual meeting available. If any shareholder wishes to inspect the minutes, please contact Ellen after the meeting. This morning we have 4 items of business that Ms. Theroff will now present.
For the first item of business, as proxy, I nominate Edward L. Glotzbach, Rob L. Jones, and John P. Stupp Jr. as directors for a 3-year term expiring at the annual meeting in the year 2020. These were the nominees named in the proxy statement.
Is there a second to those nominations?
Second.
Second.
For the second item of business, as proxy, I move the advisory approval of compensation of our named executive officers.
Do I hear a second to that?
Second.
For the third item of business, as proxy, I move the advisory vote on the interval at which we will seek shareholder advisory approval of the compensation of our named executive officers.
And is there a second to that motion?
Second. For the fourth item of business, as proxy, I move the ratification of the appointment of Deloitte & Touche as the company's independent registered public accountant for the fiscal year 2017.
May I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Creighton Dunlop of IVS Associates Incorporated has been appointed as Inspector of Election and will report results to the Secretary as soon as they are available. The proxies have cast the votes in accordance with the instructions received from the shareholders giving such proxies. If any shareholder in the audience would like to submit their vote on the issues now, please raise your hand and an usher will bring you a ballot. Okay, while waiting on the report of the Inspector of Election, I would like to share a few comments. We officially became Spire in April. In changing our name, we further unified our businesses together as one company. The name Spire represents our ongoing efforts to bring people and energy together in ways that enrich lives and add value for our shareholders and our communities. To help make the vision real, we've increased our scale and expanded our geographic footprint. And as a result of our success in acquiring and growing gas utilities over the last 4 years, we've quadrupled our enterprise value, now at $5.4 billion, giving us the resources we need to expand into the future. This transformative success is reflected in a number of key metrics, including our 2016 net economic earnings of $3.42 per diluted share, representing a growth of 7.2% compared to our 2015 earnings. That's in line with our expectation that our results would come in above our annual long-term earnings per share growth target of 4 to 6%. Our performance, along with our confidence in our continued growth, allowed us to increase our annualized dividend for 2017 by 7.1% to $2.10 per share while maintaining our conservative payout ratio. This marks the 14th consecutive year of increasing dividends and the 72nd year of continuous dividend payments. We've invested in our gas utilities so that we can strengthen our relationships with our communities by providing service that's above and beyond. This year, Spire put in a total of $293 million of capital to work, nearly all of which is invested in our gas utilities with a focus on infrastructure upgrades across our system. This is a very significant part of how we keep people safe and ensure the reliability that they depend on. We also acquired Mobile Gas in Alabama and Wilmette Gas in Mississippi in September 2016 for $344 million. The acquisition of these gas utilities moves us into new territories, adding to our footprint and offering further regulatory diversity. We welcomed 103,000 customers to the Spire family, which now totals nearly 1.7 million homes and businesses. As shale gas has become a plentiful part of the natural gas supply mix in the U.S., one of our goals for our customers is to benefit from the cost advantages that offers, as well as from its supply diversity, reliability, and resiliency. To advance this goal, we launched the Spire St. Louis Pipeline Project. When it's completed in fiscal year 2019, our pipeline will connect our St. Louis area customers to a new energy source, the Rocky Mountain Express pipeline that brings gas west from the Marcellus and Utica supply basins. We're exploring similar opportunities in western Missouri and in Alabama. With each of these initiatives, we put our customers, communities, and shareholders first. I know I speak for all of the board of directors when I say it's deeply satisfying to be part of a company that believes energy exists to help people. I want to extend my gratitude to our customers for joining us on this journey. I would also like to thank my fellow board members for their guidance and their time and their support. Finally, A special thanks to Suzanne and her leadership team, along with our 3,300 employees for their exceptional efforts in making Spire what it is today and what it will be tomorrow. I will now open the floor for questions. Okay, I can handle all those questions. If there aren't any questions, we do have the report of the Inspector of Election. Would the Secretary please report the results?
The results were as follows. Edward L. Glotzbach, Rob L. Jones, and John P. Stepp Jr. each received favorable votes from greater than a majority of the voted shares, which is sufficient for Edward L. Glotzbach's, Rob L. Jones, and John P. Stepp's election for a term of 3 years. The proposal for advisory approval of compensation of our executive officers received favorable votes from greater than a majority of the voted shares, which is sufficient for its advisory approval. With regard to the proposal to provide advisory vote on the interval at which we will seek shareholder advisory approval of compensation of our executive officers, 1 year received the greatest votes from the voted shares. The proposal to ratify the appointment of Deloitte & Touche LLP to audit the accounts of Spire for fiscal year 2017 received favorable votes from greater than a majority of the voted shares, which is sufficient for its approval.
Okay, as you heard, the nominees named in the proxy statement have been elected. Advisory approval of the compensation of our executive officers has been obtained. 1 year is the interval at which we will now seek shareholder advisory approval of compensation of our executive officers, and that received the greatest number of votes, and the appointment of Deloitte & Touche has been ratified. I will now ask Ellen for closing statement and motion to adjourn.
Some of today's comments have included forward-looking statements. Actual results may differ materially from those projected. A description of the risks and uncertainties that could cause future performance or results to be different than those anticipated is contained in the company's Form 10-K and other documents filed with the SEC, which are readily available. We also note that some of the remarks contain non-GAAP financial measures. Reconciliation of the non-GAAP financial measures to comparable GAAP measures can be found in our Form 10-K available on our website. As proxy, I move the meeting be adjourned.
So ordered. And thank you all again for coming. We are adjourned.
Well,